What if I told you that in just 60 seconds a day, you could begin to sharpen your memory, clear that frustrating mental fog, and actually feel your mind come alive again? Think about it for a second. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly stopped, completely blank, with no idea why you went there? Or struggled to remember a word that's right there, so close you can almost feel it, but it just won't come out? Maybe someone tells you their name, and seconds later, it's gone. These moments seem small, almost harmless, but over time they start to build into something much heavier. A quiet doubt. A question you might not even want to say out loud. Is something wrong with my memory? If that sounds familiar, you're far from alone. And here's the most important thing you need to hear right now. This is not something you have to simply accept. For years, we've been told that memory decline is just a natural part of getting older, something inevitable, something out of our control. But what if that belief isn't entirely true? What if your brain is far more adaptable, far more resilient than you've been led to believe? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a surprisingly simple method, designed with real neurological principles, that could help you start waking up your memory today. And the best part? It takes just 1 minute. Now, before we dive into the method itself, let me introduce you to the perspective behind it. I'm Dr. Richard Ben, a neurologist, and for years I've been fascinated by one thing above all else: the hidden potential of the human brain. Throughout my career, I've met hundreds of people who came to me with the exact same concern that may have brought you here today. Men and women in their 60s, 70s, even well into their 80s. People who are vibrant, experienced, full of life, yet quietly worried that their minds are starting to slip away from them. They describe the same patterns. The mental fog that makes everything feel slower. The struggle to concentrate. The effort it suddenly takes to remember things that once came effortlessly. And when they speak, there's always something deeper behind their words. Not just frustration, but fear. Fear of losing independence. Fear of becoming dependent on others. Fear of watching their most precious memories slowly fade. That fear is real, and it deserves to be taken seriously. But here's where everything changes. My mission has never been just to observe these patterns, it's to challenge them. Because modern neuroscience has revealed something extraordinary, something that completely shifts how we think about aging and memory. Your brain is not a fixed system that simply declines over time. It is dynamic. It can adapt, rebuild, and reorganize itself at any age. And understanding this changes everything. This incredible ability has a name: neuroplasticity. And it might be one of the most important concepts you'll ever learn about your brain. Instead of thinking of your mind as a machine that slowly wears out, imagine it as a living, growing garden. If you ignore it, if you stop engaging it, weeds begin to take over, pathways weaken, and things that once felt easy start to fade. But when you care for that garden, when you challenge it, nourish it, and give it the right kind of attention, it can bloom again, even after years of neglect. That's the power of neuroplasticity. Your brain is constantly forming new connections, strengthening existing ones, and even rerouting around weaker areas. And here's the key point: this ability doesn't disappear with age. It stays with you, ready to be activated. Which means that even if you've noticed changes in your memory, even if things feel slower than they used to, you still have the ability to improve. What I'm about to show you is a simple way to start doing exactly that. Think of it as a form of brain gardening, a short, focused routine that stimulates your mind in a very specific way. It doesn't require any medication, expensive tools, or complicated training. Just 1 minute of your time, done correctly. And while it may sound almost too simple, I've seen firsthand how powerful this kind of targeted stimulation can be when practiced consistently. But before I show you exactly how this works, we need to confront one of the most damaging ideas about memory: the belief that decline is simply inevitable. You've probably heard it your whole life. In jokes, in movies, in casual conversations. "Oh, I forgot my keys. I must be getting old." It sounds harmless, even normal. But over time, that belief becomes something much more dangerous. Because when we accept that nothing can be done, we stop trying. We stop challenging our minds. We avoid effort. And without realizing it, we begin to accelerate the very decline we're afraid of. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. But science tells a very different story. Throughout my work, I've had the privilege of studying individuals I call superagers. These are people in their 80s, 90s, even over 100 years old, whose cognitive abilities remain remarkably sharp. sometimes comparable to people decades younger. And here's what's fascinating. Their brains don't stay sharp because of luck alone. It's not just genetics. The common thread is how they live. They stay mentally engaged, they challenge themselves, they remain curious. In other words, whether they realize it or not, they've been activating neuroplasticity their entire lives. They've been tending to their brain like a garden, keeping those pathways alive, active, and strong. And that means this ability isn't reserved for a special few. It's something you can begin using, starting today. To understand why this works, picture your brain like a network of trails through a forest. Every time you learn something new or recall a memory, you walk down a path. The more often you use that path, the clearer and wider it becomes, eventually turning into a smooth, easy road. But when you stop using it, nature takes over. The path becomes overgrown, harder to follow, almost invisible. That's exactly what happens with your neural connections. The good news? You can always start walking those paths again, or even create entirely new ones. And this is where the exercise I'm about to show you becomes so powerful. It's not just random movement or simple thinking, it's a very specific combination designed to pull your brain out of autopilot and force it to build and strengthen those pathways. But before we get into the step-by-step, I want you to meet someone who experienced this transformation firsthand. Let me tell you about Ramon. He came to my clinic at 78 years old, accompanied by his daughter, who was deeply concerned. Ramon had spent his life as a carpenter, a man who worked with precision, building things with both his hands and his mind. But recently, something had changed. He would stop mid-sentence, unable to remember what he was about to say. One day, he couldn't recall the name of his own grandson, and that moment changed everything. His daughter described it as heartbreaking. The confusion on the child's face, the quiet embarrassment in Ramon's eyes. When I asked him how he felt, he brushed it off with a phrase I had heard countless times before. It's just age. But behind those words, I could see something else. Frustration, withdrawal. He had stopped reading because it felt too difficult to follow the storyline. He spent most of his days watching television, not because he enjoyed it, but because it required less effort. Slowly, his world was shrinking, so I made him a simple proposal. I said, Ramon, I'm not asking you to believe in anything extraordinary. I'm asking for just 1 minute a day. I'll teach you an exercise. It might feel unusual at first, maybe even a little silly, but I want you to do it every single day for 4 weeks. He looked at me skeptically. 1 minute? He asked. And that will fix this? I smiled and told him the truth. Maybe not fix everything, but it will challenge your brain. And your brain, like any muscle, responds to challenge. He paused, thought about it, and finally agreed. Reluctantly, but with just enough curiosity to give it a try. And that decision turned out to be far more powerful than he expected. 4 weeks later, Ramon walked back into my office, and I immediately noticed the difference. His posture was more upright, his handshake firm, his eyes focused and alert. But it was his daughter who spoke first, her voice filled with emotion. She told me that just days earlier, her son Lucas had asked his grandfather about a toy he had made years ago. And this time, Ramon didn't freeze. He didn't struggle. Instead, he told the entire story. How he chose the wood, how he shaped it, even details about the old family dog they had back then. It wasn't just memory, it was clarity. The kind she hadn't seen in years. Ramon smiled, a bit embarrassed but clearly proud. He admitted that in the beginning, the exercise felt strange, almost too simple to matter. But he kept going. After the first week, he noticed he felt more alert in the mornings. After the second, he could follow conversations and news without losing track. And then something unexpected happened. Names and memories he hadn't accessed in decades started coming back. It felt, he said, like a window that had been closed for years suddenly opened. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't a miracle story. Not everyone experiences such dramatic changes. But Ramon's experience is a powerful example of what can happen when you activate your brain in the right way. And now, it's your turn to learn how to do it. All right, this is the moment where everything becomes practical. If you can, get ready to follow along, because this works best when you actually do it, not just listen. You'll need nothing more than a chair and 1 minute of focused attention. Sit near the edge of the chair with your back straight but relaxed, feet flat on the floor about hip-width apart, and your hands resting gently on your thighs. Close your eyes for a brief second, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, and exhale through your mouth, letting go of any tension. Now open your eyes. We begin. The first 30 seconds are all about activation and oxygenation. Slowly raise your right arm forward until it's parallel to the floor while inhaling through your nose to a mental count of 4. Then gently lower it back down while exhaling through your mouth for another count of 4. Now switch to your left arm. Same motion, same breathing rhythm. Continue alternating like this in a steady, controlled pace. No rushing. The goal is not speed, it's awareness. Focus on the movement, the breath, the rhythm. This alone already increases oxygen flow to your brain and begins activating coordination centers. Now, without stopping the movement, we move into the second phase, the mental challenge. Keep the same rhythm, but now start naming items from a simple category, like fruits. Each time you raise an arm, say one item: apple, banana, orange. Keep going. If your mind goes blank, that's okay. That's actually part of the process. Stay calm, keep breathing, and let the next word come. And just like that, you've completed the full 60-second routine. But what's happening inside your brain during that minute is far more powerful than it seems. By combining a physical movement with a mental challenge, you're forcing different regions of your brain to communicate at the same time. Areas responsible for coordination, attention, and memory are all working together, creating new connections and strengthening existing ones. That's neuroplasticity in action. But here's where most people either succeed or fail: consistency and progression. If you do the exact same thing every day without increasing the challenge, your brain adapts, and the effect weakens. So you need to keep it engaged. During your first week, stick to simple categories: fruits, animals, everyday objects. In the second week, increase the difficulty by choosing a letter and naming words that start with it. By the third week, try counting backward from 100 in steps of 3 while continuing the movement. It will feel challenging. That's a good sign. And after that, get creative. Mix tasks, switch categories, invent your own variations. The rule is simple. If it feels too easy, it's time to level up. At the same time, avoid the 3 biggest mistakes. Don't rush. Slow, controlled movement is key. Don't be inconsistent. This only works if you do it daily. And don't allow distractions. This 1 minute should be fully dedicated to your brain. Treat it like an appointment you don't cancel. Now, let's bring everything together. We started with a simple question. Why do these small memory lapses happen, and do they have to be accepted as part of life? You've seen that the answer is no. Your brain is not fixed, not fragile, and certainly not beyond improvement. Through neuroplasticity, it has the ability to adapt, rebuild, and grow stronger at any age. You learned a simple but powerful 60-second routine that combines movement, breathing, and mental challenge to stimulate that process. You saw how consistency, not complexity, is what truly drives results. And you heard Ramon's story, a reminder that change is possible when you give your brain the right kind of stimulus. But here's the truth. None of this matters unless you act on it. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just remember this. Use it. Commit to 1 minute a day for the next 7 days. That's it. Just 7 minutes total. Then come back and reflect. Did you feel more alert? Did something small improve? Share it. Because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to take their first step. This isn't about perfection, it's about momentum. Small actions, repeated daily, create real change over time. So right now, you have a choice. Close this and move on. Or take 1 minute for yourself and begin something better. Your brain is capable of more than you think. Start today and see where it takes you.